Hi, welcome to my new video for beginners. Today we will draw this railway track together and we will see the rules of perspective. I hope you will enjoy it. Are you ready? Here we go. We start by drawing the horizon line. Now, let's mark the location of the vanishing point. Remember that in one-point perspective, the vanishing point should always be on the horizon line. So far, we have applied two important rules of perspective: the horizon line and the vanishing point. As you know, there are two rails in a railway track. Now we draw the rail on the left. We will draw this railway track by imagining that we are standing on the rail on the left. This rail passes under our feet. So, the left rail should come straight to us from the vanishing point. Okay, now it's time for the right rail. When drawing the rails, make sure that they are both the same width. Well, now let's draw the height of the right rail. If you have trouble drawing straight lines from the vanishing point, you can always use a ruler. We will not draw any lines to show the height of the rail on the left, because in real life you cannot see the height of the rail you are standing on. Well, now let's draw the railway sleepers. First, let's mark the limits of the right and left edges of the railway sleepers. Now we will draw the railway sleepers between these two lines. When drawing the railway sleepers, make sure your lines are as parallel to the top or bottom edge of the paper as possible. And here we must apply another important rule of perspective. Objects become smaller as they move away from us. When drawing railway sleepers, remember that the width of these sleepers and the amount of gap between two sleepers will gradually decrease. Okay, let's finish the drawing of the railway sleepers with a few small touches. It's done. Drawing a railway track is not so difficult as you think. Am I right? We will return to the railway track drawing for details later. But right now we have other things to do. Poles. Well, first we need to mark the upper and lower limits of the poles, as we did before for the railway sleepers. Okay, now we're going to draw the poles between these two lines. We'll start by drawing the pole closest to us. Hey, wait a minute. Shouldn't it be between the lines we just drew? Haha, yeah, you're right. But you can't see the top and bottom edges of the pole closest to us from this angle. The top and bottom of the pole are currently outside of our paper. So we'll just draw the body of the pole closest to us. Doesn't that make sense? Now we can draw the other pole between the mentioned lines. And the next, and the other. And it is okay. Here I need to mention some important perspective rules. Objects get smaller as they move away from us. As you can see here, the poles got smaller as they moved away from us. Also, the distance between the poles decreased. Another important rule is that the vertical lines you draw in one-point perspective should be drawn parallel to the right or left edge of the paper. Here you can see that the lines of the poles are as parallel as possible to the right and left edges of the paper. Now let's start drawing the details of the poles. As you can see, I draw the distant objects smaller. It's time to draw the cables of our poles. Instead of drawing the cables in a straight line, you should draw them a little curved. because when you look at the cables on the poles around you, you can easily see that cables are never straight in real life. Okay, let's continue adding more details to our drawing. For example, I plan to draw a small farm on the left side of the railway track. Before the farm buildings, let's roughly define the boundaries of this farm. For this, I'll use a barbed wire fence. As you can see, first I mark the area where I will draw the barbed wire fence. For this, I draw 2 lines coming from the vanishing point. The wooden stakes of the barbed wire fence will be between these 2 lines. As a rule of perspective, wooden stakes get smaller as they get farther away, and the distance between the wooden stakes also decreases. I draw the barbed wires so that they end at the vanishing point. I don't draw the barbed wires as a straight line, because they are probably damaged in real life due to weather and natural conditions. I want to add some detail to the nearest pole to make it clear that it's a pole, so that we don't get confused in the next steps. Good. Now it's time to build our farm. To make the first of the farm buildings, I'm going to draw a straight line right here. This line should be parallel to the right or left edge of the paper. This line is the closest corner of the building to us. I draw 2 lines from the top and bottom points of the line to the vanishing point. These lines show where the building will be drawn. I'm cutting the lines here. This new line is the farthest corner of the building. Okay, now I'm drawing a rectangle here. The thing you need to pay attention to in this rectangle is that the top and bottom edges of the rectangle should be parallel to the top and bottom edges of your paper. Likewise, the right and left edges of the rectangle should be parallel to the right and left edges of your paper. Our building needs a roof. For this, we draw a line from the middle of the top edge of our rectangle upwards. Then we put a dot at the height we want for our roof. Then, starting from this point, we draw 2 lines for the upper corners of the rectangle. We end our lines by drawing them a little further out from the upper corner points. Because the roofs of buildings are always built a little further out from the walls of the building, to prevent the damage of rainwater will flow from the roof to the walls of the building. We draw 2 lines from the lower and upper end points of the roof to the vanishing point. We connect these 2 lines where the roof ends. This line should be parallel to the roof line on the side of the roof closest to us. Well, let's add the thickness of the roof as a detail. Now it's time to draw the windows. I draw a vertical line again. And from the top and bottom of this line, I draw 2 lines to the vanishing point. My windows will be between these 2 lines. Then I set the width of my windows and how many windows I will draw. Finally, I finish by drawing the frames of my windows. Now I add the chimney to the building, applying the perspective rules I mentioned before. Now let's add our second building. First, I draw a straight line here and apply the same perspective rules I used when drawing the previous building. I have to give you a little tip on finding the centers of these buildings when you look at them from the side like this. It can be difficult to find the centers of these buildings because of the perspective, but if you do it the way I'm showing you right now, you can find their exact centers. Now let's draw the roof. Time to add windows. In fact, I do the same thing in this building drawing as I did in the previous building drawing. I think you know exactly what to do now. Just keep the rules of perspective in mind. Okay, well, let's draw a small building here to add depth to our drawing. No need for a lot of detail. Perspective rules. A few touches. Okay, that's it. Let's take a look at the background. Let's add some mountains here. Of course, these mountains should be above the horizon line. And little soft touches. Well, it's time to get back to our railway track for details. We need to add some ballast to our railway track. Railway ballast refers to crushed stones placed under the railway track. It forms the track for sleepers to lay on. I'll speed up the video a bit here so as not to waste your time. If you draw a railway track without ballast, it looks very bare to the eye. At least that's how I see it. Moreover, ballast gives depth and realism to your drawing. Okay, that's it. It looks better. Okay, now let's add some detail to the ground. Rocks, small grasses, tiny terrain irregularities, and some depth to the windows. I think the roofs need some tiles. When drawing the tiles, don't try too hard to get them all the same size and alignment. Many of them are worn, damaged, or broken in real life, so just draw enough detail to show that they are tiles. So what are these farmhouses made of? They are probably made of stone. So showing that they are made of stone with a few lines would be a nice touch for realism. Remember that the stones may not be the same size and in a perfect shape. Again, a few minor touches. Yes, so far we have drawn a railway track using one-point perspective. I tried to show how to apply the rules of perspective. From now on, it is necessary to add light and shadow and more details to the drawing. However, since the subject of our video is perspective, I will not explain the subject of light and shadow and its details. I will just show you quickly so that you have an idea in mind. You do not need to use expensive pencils or paper at the moment. Since you are in the learning process, an ordinary paper and pencil will do the job. The importance of the quality of the paper and pencil will increase when you make professional drawings in the future. Since you are a beginner, I recommend using 2B or 3B soft pencils to draw the main objects in your work. This way, you can easily erase any mistakes you make. For the parts of your drawing that need to be dark or shaded, you can use 4B and 5B soft pencils. You can also use a 0.5B pencil for fine details and parts that need to be sharp in your drawing. Perspective is a subject that improves as you work on it. You may not know much about it right now, but with a lot of sketching, you can easily overcome this problem. Perspective is not a rocket science. It has some simple and easy to follow rules, and once you learn them, you will never forget them for the rest of your life. Think back to when you first learned to ride a bike. At first you fell, hurt yourself, or cried hundreds of times. But now you can ride a bike with your eyes closed. Even if you haven't ridden a bike for years, you can ride a bike easily now. The perspective is exactly the same. Once you learn, you don't forget easily. You can be sure that one day you will become a professional in perspective. Don't give up. Yes, that's it. Thank you very much for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. In the videos on my channel, I go on a journey with you about perspective. Don't forget to join me on these journeys. Have a great day. See you next time.